Welcome. You're listening to Sovereignty Rising with contrarian soul guide, Dawn, where we strip off the masks, rise in our power, and create a life that's true, not performative. Let's get brutally honest for a second. You can say all the right things, burn the sage, write the affirmations, be showing up as the most spiritual person in the room. But none of it matters if your frequency is broadcasting fear, lack, and performance. Because your frequency doesn't lie, ever. Even when your words do. Even when your smile does. Even when you don't know you're lying to yourself. Today, we're diving into principle number 2 of co-creation. Your frequency doesn't lie. Magnetic attraction is always on. You are a walking signal tower, and the world, the field, is responding. So if you're not getting what you want, it's not because you're broken. It's not because you aren't worthy. It's not because the universe doesn't have your back. It's because your broadcast is distorted. Let's fix that. Let's feel that. Let's freaking free that. Welcome to Sovereignty Rising. Ditch the fear, embrace your flame. I'm Dawn Elgin, contrarian soul guide, visionary mystic, and creatrix of practical spiritualism. And this is the space where we strip away the fear, burn the old stories down, and reclaim the power that was never truly lost, just buried. Here, we dive into raw, unfiltered conversations on emotional healing, spiritual awakening, and the art of unlearning everything that keeps you stuck, small, and disconnected from your truth. Together, we rise like phoenixes. Flame first, fear last. Let's rise together. The field responds to resonance. Let's get metaphysical. The universe is vibrational. You are vibrational. And energy doesn't speak English. It speaks frequency. So if you're speaking gratitude out loud, but vibrating, gripping fear in your body, the field is going to match the fear. It's not personal and it's not punishment. It's just physics. And here's the kicker. Your frequency isn't what you think. It's actually what you feel. It's what your nervous system is humming with. It's the belief that lives behind your behavior. It's the unspoken truth your body carries even when your mouth doesn't. You can't bypass energy. Let's talk about fake frequency. You know what I mean? The spiritual mask. You meditate, you sage, you say it's all divine, but underneath it, you're still gripping. You're scared of what happens if you stop trying so hard to be healed. You're scared of what might rise up if you let yourself feel. You're scared that maybe, just maybe, the reason things aren't changing is because you're lying to yourself. And look, I get it. I have absolutely been there where it's sometimes you don't even want to ask because what if you don't get it? What if it doesn't come through? What does that mean about you? There's a lot of people out there that want to do gratitude and they want to have vision boards, but they're also worried about what happens. What does it mean if it doesn't come true? If those things don't unfold for us? What does that say? And so if we have these underlying beliefs that don't align with what we are desiring, what we're putting out into the world, then we're going to have a problem. And if we want to co-create our own destiny, we don't need perfection. What we actually need is a frequency integrity. Everything is energy, and it's just vibrating at different frequencies and wavelengths. Even our body, something that seems solid, is actually vibrating really slowly, sometimes not as slowly as we think it is. Our body itself, though, is a process. Take a look at your hand. We think of our hand as being this solid thing, but cells are dying. They're changing. We have blood moving through it, oxygen. So a lot of things happening in our hand that we don't necessarily see. Even as we're looking at it, it's aging. And so when we think of it from that point of view, we can't be our hand or our body because our body's a process. It's actually not even a thing at all. We are each a bioelectromagnetic being. So bio being our body, electro being the energy of thought, of psyche, of ego, intellect, and magnetic being emotions. And so we are a bioelectromagnetic being. And each of us has a bioelectromagnetic field. In other words, we are broadcasting a frequency. And so this frequency expands out of us and has been measured at over a mile in diameter, scientifically measured. Now, often we can sense this when we think of it from the place of our heart. So our heart, each of our organs actually has their own bioelectromagnetic field. And our heart is the largest out of any of our organs, including the brain. And so the heart expands when it's open in a state of love, in joy, and gratitude. And it's open, it has a field of about 15 feet in diameter, based on what we can measure now. And this is why when you meet somebody, you might will say things like, oh, I really like their energy, or I like their vibe. They feel really warm, comforting. And somebody else might feel cold and distant because their heart energy is closed or walled off. So they're in a protective state. And so we can feel the energy of someone's heart. And so when you take the whole body, the whole field in together, it can be measured at over a mile in diameter. Now, spiritually, we know it's much larger than this, but it's pretty cool that we are already able to measure at that state. Now, think about this. If you are within a mile of another person, that means that your fields are overlapping. And that means that we're in a state of parasympathetic, when we're in a state of rest and digest, of being able to expand, be open to possibilities, then we have access not only to the information within our own field, we also have more access into information in the fields all around us. That's why when you bring a whole bunch of people into a room and they start thinking and coming up with creative ideas together, they'll feed off of one another. And it's like things are just coming out of the air and people are like, I don't even know where that came from. And so we're pulling all of this energy because we have this unique frequency together. And so this is the beauty, and I'll wrap it into, this law of magnetic energy. Even within that, we'll start attracting people with similar wounds, with similar plans, with similar ideas. It's a beautiful thing, this law. And so it expresses in far more ways than just the idea of abundance or just the idea of manifesting. Everybody loves the law of magnetic attraction when they think abundant thoughts and attract abundance. But if inside what we feel is lack, unworthiness, we've grown up poor, money's dangerous, then we have a problem, because what is underneath us, underneath the surface, is creating a dichotomy. We have this other thought that's out here. I want to be abundant. I'm thinking abundant thoughts. I'm trying to feel abundant. I'm putting a smile on my face. But underneath, I have an issue. So this becomes the first stop that we have, because when we understand what's going on, then we can start to untie it. We can start to disentangle these things. We can unravel them from us. So how our energy field vibrates directly depends on the quality of our own being, of the being itself. So if we change our emotions, then our field adjusts. If we change our thoughts, then our field adjusts. We see it physically. We want to get healthier physical, so we do more exercise and we eat healthy. But if we don't change our negative thinking and our negative feelings, then we limit the amount that we can change the frequency in which we're vibrating at. So if I'm eating organic food and exercising, but I'm judging other people that are eating fast food, and then I'm just eating judgmental organic food. So it's going to really affect my frequency. So it's important that we understand that we need to do all three. It's not just one place, but we need to adjust each of them because they're intertwined. They're not separate. So let's start simple. Like attracts like. So if I have anger inside of me, I'm going to attract more anger towards me. Not just angry people, but situations that bump into that anger, that antagonize it. Now, this is done for two reasons. One, because like attracts like. It's just magnets. And emotions are magnetic. The other thing is the magnetics of our energy field will draw or attract or mirror situations to us. So have you ever noticed that if you're in a really great mood, you notice all the great things around you? And so it's a beautiful example of how our attention works. If I'm angry, I'm going to notice all the things around that give me reason or support the emotional, the frequency of being angry. So these principles, these laws, they're not nearly as simple as so often we're taught them. They are beautiful and they are very nuanced and they are very entwined, but they are incredibly supportive. What do I mean by that? Because, as I said before, it's not a punishment. It is an opportunity. One of my favorite things about this principle, remember when I heard it the first time, was about how our soul, from a spiritual side, how our soul uses this principle to help us release and let go, to help us become aware of what's within us so that we can release it. Because that's really the first step in letting go. So my preference is to think of it instead of a healing practice, of a healing journey, to think of it as a letting go journey. And the reason is because when it's a healing journey, it means something had to have happened to me and I need to heal from it now. And so I'm a victim to that situation. That's just the facts. Whereas if I look at it as a letting go situation, then these experiences have happened. And now I have a choice whether or not I want to hold on to them and let them create chaos, or do I want to let go of them and be free? And that means it's a choice. That means I'm not only taking self-responsibility, it also means I'm maintaining my power. So when we think of this principle from that point of view, it's an opportunity rather than something's happening to me. Then we start to see that nothing that is happening is personal. Life's just happening around us. It's unfolding and it bumps into something that is within us. We have to have anger within us for it to be bumped so that anger can rise up in the first place. That's why some people who don't have a lot of anger within them, things are going on and they don't take it personally and they don't get really angry. But other people, they can really react. And so the anger already exists within them. Their job is to let the anger go. So once we understand this, then we go, okay, well, life isn't making me angry or people aren't making me angry. Even that is a power change. All of a sudden, life is happening and anger's just rising. Those are very different experiences, very different ways to talk and to think about life, especially when we're talking about co-creation, because now we're not a victim to life, we're co-creating it. So now, if I think of it from that point of view, all there is gratitude for an opportunity to become aware of this hidden anger I didn't know was there. Because if I become aware of it and bring it to the surface, then I can be responsible. Now I can contain in the moment, take a pause, allow that to detonate in a more appropriate way, and move through the process as opposed to spewing and reacting with the other person. So this allows us to become aware of what's residing within us, allowing it to come to the surface and then release it, to let it go. Now, a friend of mine a few years ago had said to me one day, easily offended, easily manipulated. Just take a moment and think about that statement. Easily offended, easily manipulated. And I was like, okay, yeah, I can see how that is true. Because what does it mean for us to become offended? Trust me, this all wraps back into this beautiful, beautiful principle of magnetic attraction. Because if I have pain, if I have anger, if I have a wound and someone bumps into it, then I am going to react. I'm going to react because I'm offended I find it offensive that somebody has hurt or bumped into that wound. And it might be my wound, or it might be a wound I'm holding for somebody else, but we find that offensive. Now, that becomes a problem because if we react, we're not actually in control. It's an illusion of control. What's really happening is we're being manipulated by the wound and by other people's behaviors. We're being responsible with our own energy. We're not being responsible with our word. We're not responding, we're reacting. And that's a problem. We're saying, I feel that bump offended me, and now I'm going to defend it. I'm becoming defensive. There's a beautiful old parable by Thich Nhat Hanh. And the first time I read it, it really helped me understand the importance of me doing my work, that it was for me to release, me to let things go, that people weren't making me do anything. People were just doing themselves, and I was reacting to the world around me. It says, a monk decides to meditate alone, away from his monastery. He takes a boat and floats out into the middle of the lake, closes his eyes, and begins to meditate. A few hours of undisturbed silence, he suddenly feels the blow of a boat hitting his. With his eyes still closed, he feels his anger rising. And when he opens his eyes, he is ready to shout at the boatman who dared to disturb his meditation. But when he opens his eyes, he sees that it is an empty boat, not tied up, just floating in the middle of the lake. At that moment, the monk understands that the anger is within him. It simply needs to hit an external object to provoke it. After that, whenever he meets someone who irritates or provokes his anger, he remembers the other person is just an empty boat. The true source of the anger is within himself. When we get offended, what is happening is one of our emotions, our emotional triggers, is being bumped. We're then being manipulated by these old wounds. This is Sovereignty 101. To be sovereign means to be self-governing. To be in alignment with our soul, our spirit, means a sense of peace, of groundedness, of stability, of safety, of security coming deep within. It means to no longer be manipulated by our wounds of the past, by worries, fears, insecurities. So magnetic attraction does a beautiful thing, because what that means is our soul gets to take an opportunity to attract something to us so that we can become aware of what is living within us that maybe we weren't aware of before. Maybe we didn't realize that we had a wound. I'll give you an example. When I was away in June at a retreat, I had an incredible experience. I left for the retreat really wanting an experience of expansion, of embodiment. And so I left for the trip expecting to do a lot of writing and a lot of personal growth, a lot of personal development work, and to kind of get some clarity on the next steps of my own journey. And as I left, I got there to the airport, I started writing, everything was going great. I took the first flight, wrote some more, took the next flight, wrote some more. And then all of a sudden, what I felt was the message come through of presence, stillness. So as I was transitioning to my next flight, a long journey to get to the place, it was like 2 days of travel. And so as I continued on, I felt this feeling of slow. And it was like everything just got clearer, but I needed to move super slow and I was completely aware. And the trip stayed this way, where I would feel completely grounded and expanded, and the messages would come through slow, presence, hold. And that's the difference between our ego and our spirit. Our ego chatters away, has all sorts of excuses, all sorts of justifications. When we're in alignment with our solar spirit, it is this calm strength and its presence. It's like a deep wisdom, this wisdom that's coming from deep within ourselves. So the whole trip, this feeling is there. I don't sleep much. I'm very open. I'm very aware of what's going on. It was extremely interesting. Now, 3 times on this trip, I would have triggers that would get hit, that all of a sudden I would be aware of an old wound. And some of them I even thought I'd already dealt with. So it was a beautiful opportunity for me to see what was coming up. And this is the magnetic attraction. So we have these underlying wounds of maybe fear, of insecurity. And so something happens and it bumps into the wound to bring it to the surface so that we can look at it and we can say, is this true? Is this true anymore? Because what we'll do is we'll start gripping. You need to behave like this, or I need you to do this so that I don't feel this way. But when we come from a grounded place, when we're in our spiritual journey, we can all of a sudden look at it from a different point of view, which is, okay, here's this old wound. Why am I still carrying it? What wisdom do I need to keep from it? And then when am I ready to just let the rest of it go? Especially if it's a relationship with somebody that we really love. And this wound is actually creating a divide between us. It's creating a block. It's interfering with us cultivating intimacy and connection with others. And so I was given these 3 opportunities, one while I was there, 2 while I was traveling home, to become aware of these wounds. One was an old wound. One was my inability, or how I should say instead, my habit of allowing other people to affect my energy. In other words, if I was sitting around really negative people, then they would affect my energy and I would start becoming irritated with them. And so I already have the irritation, the judgment inside of me. And so I was like, oh, got it. Sometimes I was really quick. Sometimes it took me a couple of hours, but it was like, okay, how can I let this go? On the third time, the question that came in with presence was, can you affect their energy? So I was on a plane with some negative people. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, I was getting irritated. I was getting tense. And then the message came through and I was like, oh, can I change this? So instead, I kind of closed my eyes, started the grounding practice. And as I grounded and started coming into my heart and expanding my energy, all of a sudden they just kind of faded their conversation. They just kind of stopped talking and they got really quiet. Somebody else joined them and everything just shifted. And I was like, interesting. We are able to affect change positively or negatively. And so this was an opportunity I was given. Now, the whole time I was there, I was being told, you need to speak more, you need to speak more, you need to speak more. And when I got home, about 5 days later, I had this old wound triggered. Was met up with a friend. She was asking me about my trip. And 3 times in a row, as I started telling her about the beginning, because this, beginning and these messages coming through to me were incredible. This was the greatest part of my whole trip. And so I'm telling her, she's a very close friend, and she interrupts me. And so I wait and she's like, oh, keep talking. I'm just doing this. And I'm like, So I start telling her about it again. And again, she interrupts me and she starts talking to her dog. And she says, oh, I'm listening. And I'm like, can you listen and talk at the same time? And she kind of like, oh, and she's like, no, I'm listening. And she's still fussing about. So I start telling her the story again. And again, she interrupts me and starts talking to her husband. And I just stop. And I finally just say, you know what? It was great. It was a really beautiful experience. I'm glad I went. And I just started talking about them and asking questions. Later on, my husband and I talked about it, and I realized I was really triggered, but I couldn't quite figure out what I was being triggered with. Next day, have a great day, but I'm still feeling kind of anxious. Monday, Tuesday happen. More things start coming up where people are interrupting me. They cut me off. They're not listening. And I'm like, what is going on? And on Wednesday, all of a sudden I have a situation where there's a misunderstanding. I say something, the person misunderstands what I was saying. I feel stupid. And then I'm embarrassed and I'm like, oh my gosh, you shouldn't have said anything. And it starts to unravel from there. Later on that night, my mind starts to go, see, you always look stupid. You should have just kept your mouth shut. And I'm like, where are these thoughts coming from? And whose voices are these? So I'm aware of the mind and I listen to the chatter without getting involved in its chaos. So I'm like, whose voices are those? And some I recognize, my grandparents, my mom, and I start to notice, and it goes on for about 2 hours. It's pretty intense. And finally, I get it to just shut it down and I end up going to sleep. The next day, I have a session with my coach and I bring up these gremlins, is what she refers to them as, and we start talking about them. And she challenges me. She challenges me instead to not only release, become aware of what's coming up. So the thought that came underneath it, the belief was, nobody wants to hear you speak. And so you can see the dichotomy though. If I'm being told to speak more, to put on more workshops again, to go out and do podcasts, to do YouTube, and I have an underlying belief that no one wants to hear me speak, there's an issue. And it's going to be an issue not only in magnetizing opportunities, it's going to be an issue within me where I'm going to have fear and insecurity come up, which I had. But now all of a sudden I was being given an opportunity to see something deeper. And so when I started to look back, I was given an opportunity to see my mom in a different light. Because when I really started to look back, I was like, how long has this friendship been going on like this? And it turns out for 35 years. And so then I was going backward and I'm like, oh, there's been many a times I've not felt awesome in these situations. So I keep going back and I'm looking and looking. I'm like, well, what was she mirroring then? And so when I was looking at what was she mirroring, I could see it into my childhood. I could see it show up all through high school, all through elementary school. I could see it through my childhood with my family. And then when I was looking at that, all of a sudden I was able to shift because as I was watching, it wasn't things happening to me. I was like watching a play or a movie go out. And then I could start to see that my mom was just projecting what was already in her. And so these thoughts, these beliefs that I should be seen and not heard, these beliefs that have been passed down generation after generation, this is epigenetics. And so, and ancestral wounds. And so as I started to look, I was like, it was never about me. I took personally what all these other people were saying and doing, but it was never about me. This is the 4 agreements. Second agreement, don't take anything personal. What other people are doing and saying are about them. It doesn't mean that when we're not being given a direct statement that we don't need to look at it and say like, oh, is this true? Is this something I can learn from? Is this some wisdom? But it isn't actually when people are doing things, it's not happening to us. We're having an experience and they're experiencing something and we have a choice whether or not we take it personal. So at this point, all of a sudden it was an opportunity to start letting something go. And this is the beauty of magnetic attraction. I ask every single morning, what do I need to let go of today? And so what I'm saying is, what is deep within me that I'm unaware of, or maybe sometimes I am aware of them and I haven't let them go yet. What is there that is interfering with what I'm trying to create and call into my life? And so the universe will show us, oh, here's this anger. Here's this low self-esteem. Here's these beliefs and these emotions within you that are interfering with what we're trying to co-create with the world. And so this is one of the beauties of the law of magnetic attraction. It's not something bad happening to us. It's an opportunity for us to become aware of something so we can release it. And then we can shift our frequency to create what it is that we really desire, which at the end of the day is actually peace. It's love. It's connection. This is what we truly desire. All the other things that we're calling for, we're hoping gives us these things. But underneath it all, this is what we really want. And so the only way we can get peace is to start creating internal peace. Internal peace starts to vibrate out of us. And so then we create an external peace in our life. So with this being said, I'd love for us to do a little frequency check-in. So go ahead and get yourself into a comfortable position. And just start to notice your body. Now, if it's available to you and it feels right for you, go ahead and close your eyes. And just start to notice your body. Become aware of your feet, become aware of your seat, noticing maybe your hands, maybe give them a bit of a rub. And then start to notice your breath. Notice where your breath is landing in your body and start to draw it a little deeper. drawing it into your belly, dropping it all the way down into your pelvic bowl. And as you inhale, breathe deeply into your pelvic bowl, expanding that womb space. And as you exhale, drop down into the earth. You can imagine these energetic roots, these cords going deep, deep, deep down. And with each exhale, slowing the exhale down, sending those roots down deeper and deeper, connecting with the quantum healing field grids and networks that are held there, connecting with the field of unity consciousness, connecting with benevolent Gaian consciousness or Earth Mother, and plugging into the crystalline core of the earth. And then as you inhale, draw this energy from the core of the earth all the way up to your heart. And as you exhale, let it merge. Inhale to your pelvic bowl. This time, exhale through the crown of your head, sending energetic roots like the tree of life up into the ether, connecting into the quantum healing field grids and networks that are held there, connecting into the field of unity consciousness, connecting into Father Sky, the sun, connecting into Mother, Father, God Source, Home Star, Soul Star. And on your next inhale, draw that light all the way down into your body. And as you exhale, let it merge. Each breath harmonizing the divine feminine and the divine masculine. Every inhale, every exhale harmonizing. Now ask your body, what frequency am I broadcasting right now? What emotion is humming underneath my words today? What does my energy say when my mouth is silent? No shame, just awareness, just information. This is where transformation begins. We live in an offended era. Everyone seems to be offended by something someone else is doing or saying. We take everything personally. We take other people's behaviors and words personally. What we don't do is question, why am I offended? Why am I angry? Why am I upset? The ego can make great justifications. It can give all sorts of reasons why we have every right to be offended. But we don't stop and think about the fact that if we're offended, we can be manipulated. We can be manipulated by other people's words and actions. We can be manipulated by whatever this is about. It doesn't mean that we don't say no and rise up against racism and bigotry. It means we don't allow ourselves to be manipulated, to be controlled by our wounds of the past or by other people's behaviors. It means instead what we want to do is when we question and we come inward, we're containing our own power. This is what it means to be sovereign, to be led by our soul, to be self-governing, rather than to be pushed and pulled by the wounds of our past, by our worries of tomorrow. We are grounded. We're benevolent. We're kind in the face of anything. We're solid. We find the security from within ourselves. There's a beautiful saying that is an absolute truth, which is justifications are just well thought out lies. And what that means is when we're justifying something, our ego is lying to us. It's lying to cover up. It's putting everything out there instead of us coming back in here. And it's important for us to understand that because when we justify things, we get pulled out of alignment with our true values, with our soul, with our essence. And so our job is to notice these things when they come up and go, oh, that's a warning. That's an alarm bell for me. Shoulds, shouldn't, as soon as I'm starting to say those words, I should have done that, or I shouldn't have done, I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? There's already some fear, something else is at play. Justifications, when I'm justifying being mad at somebody or doing something or saying something, those are warning signs. Those are a little moment where we get to go, hey, something's off here. So, again, I'm not saying that we want to tolerate any racism, sexism, bigotry, quite the opposite. I'm challenging us to respond, to get super grounded versus being triggered and reacting, where all of a sudden we can have a power shift and get pulled or pushed as opposed to standing super strong and super tall. And the reason this counts for what we're talking about today with this law of magnetic attraction is because once we understand that these things are just being bumped, then we understand that this is what free will really means. It means here's this thing coming up, and rather than me being pushed or pulled by it, I can become aware of it. I can now have choice, real free will. Does this align with who I want to be? Is this in alignment with my soul? If it's not, now we have an opportunity to do the work. Now we have the opportunity to start softening the grip and releasing it. We keep the wisdom and we let go of the trigger. That's the key to it. So think about it. An experience plus an emotion equals a trigger. Say that again. An experience plus an emotion equals a trigger, good or bad. When we have an experience without the emotion, then it becomes wisdom. This is the difference. We want to release the triggers. We want to release these underlying emotions and beliefs so that instead we keep the experience or the wisdom from the experience, but we're no longer being able to be manipulated by the past. And the law of magnetic attraction allows that awareness to come to the forefront. So 3 signs you're out of frequency integrity. You'll know you're misaligned when you say, I'm fine, but you feel hollow, which is like a frequency mismatch. 2, you're doing all the right things and nothing's shifting. So we've got an action, but without the resonance. And then 3, you're attracting people who mirror your oldest wounds. So you can think of it as the soul letting you know about the shadow. The solution is not fixing. It's not performing better. The solution is presence. It's awareness, a courageous return to what's actually true within you. Now let's take a moment and have a word from our sponsor. This episode is brought to you by me, your spiritual CEO, your contrarian soul coach and guide, your lighthouse in the fog. I created Soul Alchemy and Aligned Living coaching programs. I co-created Soul Alchemy and Aligned Living coaching programs for the ones who are ready to stop faking the frequency and start living from truth. Soul Alchemy is my private one-to-one work, deep, potent, no fluff transformation for the ones ready to stop creating from fear and start leading from their soul. Aligned living is the space where you integrate. No more mental overwhelm, no more spiritual bypass, just real shifts, real presence, and real embodiment. Both of these programs are about detangling your spirit from ego. Ready to live the frequency your soul was born to carry? Book a no pressure call with me. Links in the show notes. Now, back to the episode. Another way this principle works is say you have an inspiration, an inspired idea. You will start to attract people or experiences that will support and help you have this inspiration unfold. Let me give you an example. I was inspired. I woke up one morning several years ago, about 2020, so right in the middle of the pandemic. And I woke up with an inspired idea that I needed to open up a cognitive wellness center. Now, my husband's like, what does that mean? And I'm like, I don't know. I could kind of explain it to him. It was like for people with brain injuries or nervous system dysregulation. And I knew it was going to have meditation and yoga, but it needed to be more integrated. It was a place that would be supported in science, but would also support the healing of the spirit. And I just knew that I needed to create it. It needed to be a place where somebody could go. They didn't have to keep retelling their story over and over again, that they could be seen and be heard and just be really present in their healing journey. And so 6 months goes by and my husband's like, well, how do you plan to create this? And I'm like, well, I think we should sell our house. And we should sell our house and buy a commercial piece of property. So 6 months later, we did. We sold our home. And on the day that the sale went final, I posted about it. And my girlfriend that I had met at book club, she popped by. She lived nearby and she came by and she's like, congratulations. It's really exciting about selling your house. What's the next thing on your journey? This is very like her. And so I was like, oh, well, I was given the nudge to open a cognitive wellness center. And she said, oh, that's so cool. I've been having this idea of opening a wellness center on my property. She had a farm. And so we chatted about it for a couple of minutes. She said, well, what if we do it together? Now, usually I would have said no, because I don't actually like working with people. It's a whole trust issue that I'd had. And all of a sudden I'm looking at her and I said, yes. And I felt so calm. And she's like, well, like, I understand you might want to think about it. Like, this is your idea. And I'm like, oh, it's not really mine. And I'm like, no, no, it feels like that's right. No, I'm good with that. So we chat a little bit and we come together. So my side of this is to create this very east side. So east meets west. And I come with meditation and yoga and breath work and coaching and my own experience of moving through healing my body and my brain after an injury using the quantum field, doing this exact work. And my girlfriend comes with an upbringing of spiritual work, but is also a physiotherapist. And so more of that west side. And so us coming together, both of us are loving it. It's like makes perfect sense, but we don't really know what's going to unfold. And she's owned physio clinics in the past. So as it keeps unfolding, we find this property. I end up going partners on the property with another couple who have a different business. That goes for a couple of years. We open up in the middle of a pandemic. Both of us want to grow. So the gym leaves and we keep the building and we grow. We move from just under 2,000 square feet to 5,000 square feet. And all of a sudden, as this is unfolding, it's a little nerve wracking. You're like, what's going to happen? What is this going to mean for us? But as it's all unfolding, all of a sudden we get a perfect opportunity to start working with veterans, which usually would be a decade before you'd have an opportunity for that kind of a contract. But everything just starts unfolding and we have the perfect team starting to join us. And it continues. We get the perfect management team starting to come in and more practitioners come in. And next thing we know, we are East meets West meets tech. And it absolutely speaks to all of us. And we had no idea where it was going. And even now, every day, I'm like, here's my intention for Broken Squirrel Wellness. And I have a financial goal. But more even than that financial goal, because that's just part of having a business, is also the second part of my intention every day is that the team and our clients are happy and thriving. And so I'm magnetically activating what it is that I desire. And that means some things are going to need to fall away. It's going to bring forward some problems that are coming up so that we can deal with them and shift so that we're able to continue on this process that we want to create. And this is one of the ways that the law of magnetic attraction works. When we have a desire, when we have an inspiration, the only thing often that's given to us is the next step. Okay, and open up a clinic. What do you need to do? Well, I guess the first thing we have to do is have the finances. Okay, so we shift. And then as soon as we sold, boom, Tanya was there. And as soon as we said yes to this and we started coming together, then the next thing shifted. Every issue that came up was times when I didn't listen or I didn't deal with a warning signal that came up. And that's an interesting thing for us. If we ignore when these bumps come up and we don't deal with things, then it's going to create some chaos. And so when we do deal with them though, and then all of a sudden we get the beauty of watching something unfold. And what's really cool is often the things that we think are bad turn out to be amazing. And the things that we think are amazing can often turn out to be bad. And so know as you're working with this energy, when you're working with your soul, when you are co-creating with the universe, that we have no idea. We just keep taking the next step. And as these bumps are coming, if we can instead change the way we think and feel about the situation and say, oh, here's my opportunity to work on something. Oh, here's something else coming up that's obviously interfering with the life I desire to create. And so I'm being given an opportunity to let this go so I can create what it is that I have been putting out there. And that is a completely different way to look at how our life is unfolding all around us. So here's what I want you to take with you today. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest. Your frequency doesn't lie. And that's a gift because it means you don't have to perform anymore. You don't have to say the right thing. You just have to be the real thing. So start small. Tell the truth to your journal. Breathe with your body instead of bulldozing it. Let yourself feel what's real. That's where the shift happens. That's where creation becomes conscious. That's where you stop attracting chaos and start magnetizing miracles. Remember, I see the light in you, and it is freaking brilliant. I so badly want you to see it too. You are not broken. You are not too much. You're remembering who you've always been. And this journey is just getting started. If today's episode lit something in you, hit follow so you don't miss what's coming. And if you're feeling it, leave a review. It helps with more soul-led women find this space. Want to go deeper? Come find me on YouTube, Facebook, our private Facebook community, The Awakening Circle, Instagram, TikTok, or at our website, practicalspiritualismco.com, for all the ways we can rise together. Not to worry, all those links are in our show notes. Until next time, stay sovereign, stay bold, and keep that fire lit.